So it totally slipped my mind yesterday on Saturday. It totally slipped my mind that the Final Four games were being hosted in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium. So if you're familiar with this podcast, normally I post these podcasts on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes on Saturdays. But after realizing the Final Four games were in Minnesota, I was like, there's no point in me posting a podcast today. So at least for this week anyway, this podcast for this week is on Sunday. Realistic Randy, Mediokr Best Sports Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Two things we'll talk about today. Holton Hill getting suspended for the first 4 games of the 2019 season, and also the Green Bay Packers, the implosion. It's funny because the last couple of years, outside looking in, you could kind of tell there was some tension between Aaron Rodgers and former head coach Mike McCarthy, but Tyler Dunn of Bleacher Report did a really good job putting together a deep dive of specific events that built up to the eventual falling out between the two. We'll talk about what that means for the Green Bay Packers moving forward, and conversely, what it may mean for the Vikings as well. But first, Holton Hill suspended for the first 4 games of the 2019 season after failing a PED drug test. So he tested positive for a banned substance. And we need to be very careful because it hasn't been specified what exactly Holton Hill tested positive for. For all we know, and I know professional athletes, when they get caught, they use this excuse all the time. Oh, I just was using some regular-ass supplement I got at a drugstore, or, I went to GNC and got this, and I thought it was okay, and I had no. And that could be the case for Holton Hill. Ignorance may play a factor in this situation, but, if you're a professional athlete, what I would recommend, what I would advise is, pro athletes, they usually have a camp around them, right? They usually have guys that are working for them, or in some cases, they may have friends and family just around them, just leeching and just taking all their money away. Either way, if you're a pro athlete, I would advise or designate someone within your camp to research all the banned substances in this league. So that way you can cross-reference it with potential supplements that I'm going to get at GNC or wherever the hell else. And then that way I know that this is clear and I won't have any issues with the league. You should be cognizant of everything that you're putting in your body 100% of the time. Now, this could play this is really, we're looking at a domino effect here for this Vikings team. Number one, unless the Vikings are planning to go after Greedy Williams, cornerback out of LSU, you can't trade away Xavier Rhodes or Trey Waynes now. So it was rumored that they were possibly looking at Trey Waynes or maybe Xavier Rhodes. Well, now you can't do either again unless you go after a cornerback in the first round, because Holton Hill was a big factor going into 2019. Last year, he did a hell of a job. He had an outstanding season, and you can't go into next season now with Rhodes or Waynes paired with Holton Hill. Well, Holton Hill suspended for the first 4 games of the season. So for the first 4 games of 2019, you can't go into that situation with Waynes or Rhodes paired with Mackenzie Alexander and Mike Hughes coming off of an ACL tear. You just can't do that. You now need to keep Rhodes and Waynes along with Alexander and Hughes until Holton Hill comes back. So that really screws up the possible situations for the Vikings to free up some cap space. That was going to be the logical move as far as trading one of those cornerbacks. And then if you're Holton Hill, you're possibly stunting your development. So if you're a veteran player, this will be whatever, like, okay, you're used to the league, whatever. But we're talking about a second-year player in his sophomore season, super young, where he's still learning and he still needs to absorb. He had a great year last year, but you need to build on that to basically get some repetition. You're losing valuable reps through the first 4 games of the season to where it's like, I don't know, that could possibly stunt your development. But with Mike Zimmer, I'm very confident in his ability to coach up Holton Hill when he does return. And then specifically on the personal side for Holton Hill, you're losing a quarter of your salary. You're only getting $400. You're getting chump change compared to the rest of the league, but you're only getting less than if you weren't suspended at all, you're only getting less than $450,000 next season. So take a quarter of that salary off, and that's what you're getting. So it's very unfortunate for him. In the big scheme of things, should we get rid of Holton Hill? Should Mike Zimmer cut him, and Rick Spielman, should they cut him and set an example to the rest of the team that this will not be tolerated? Nah, man, you don't cut him. He's super young. He's super talented. He's super cheap. And you don't want to let that go. He could turn out to be something great. Now, if this was a veteran player, and this is time after time, Holton Hill did have issues coming from he played at Texas. He did have issues as far as he tested positive for weed, and he should have got drafted last year, but because of off the field concerns, he was an undrafted free agent rookie that signed with Minnesota. So I get that, but if this is a veteran player and he's had issues after issues and he's just been a consistent knucklehead, then I get it. But a young player, you need to give him a chance. You can't cut him off to the Wolves already going into his second season. But as a fan, I'm pissed off, dude. I was really looking forward to seeing what Holton Hill, how he would do in his second season. So this really screws up a lot of things for the Vikings. We'll have to see how it all plays out. University of Virginia, like they came back against Auburn. Can I get a swish? Nope, that's an air ball. You didn't see that. My bad. So now moving forward to the Packers. After reading that article by Tyler Dunn going over the implosion of the Green Bay Packers, blame can be shared between, no doubt, Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. In the case of Mike McCarthy, in the case of being stale at play calling, never really adjusted his play calling or his offensive scheme to where basically you became predictable over time, where kind of like John DeFilippo for the Vikings in 2018, super predictable to where you and I, us fans, you and I that aren't getting paid by the NFL, we're just watching the games, or we're just watching the games on Sundays. We know what the hell is up. We know these BS plays that John DeFilippo is about to run. So imagine now if you're a scout or if you're a coach or if you're a player and you're getting paid to be in this league and you're reviewing film and you're looking to exploit that. Come on, man. That's not doing your team any good right there. And the only issue that I had with this piece by Tyler Dunn is that he mentioned Mike McCarthy back when he was an offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers in the same draft as Aaron Rodgers. Mike McCarthy chose Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers. And I don't think that's true at all, because the offensive coordinator, they're not going to make the decision of who you're going to, especially with the first pick overall in the draft. No, that's the general manager and the head coach collaborating together as far as figuring out what's going to be the best course of action. Okay, so that's the only thing. But as far as Aaron Rodgers, if he felt some sort of way, oh, you chose Alex Smith over me, like I would say to Aaron Rodgers, get over it. But the second thing, which I could kind of see, is Mike McCarthy saying that Alex Smith is the better quarterback. He's better than Aaron Rodgers. I could see why Aaron Rodgers would have a problem with that. Number one, if you're Mike McCarthy or anybody that's working in the league or any professional sport, you got to be aware, specifically in football too, like college football and the NFL, it's under one big-ass umbrella. There's a shelf life in this league regardless of where you're at outside of the quarterback. There's only one Bill Belichick that can have unlimited job security for like 20-something years. Outside of that, you have to be cognizant of the fact that anything you say about any player that's not on the team that you're working for right now, there's a chance that you could work with that individual later on. So whether you're a GM, a coach, or a player, what you say about that individual right then and there, it could make things really awkward if you end up working with that player. You have to worry about or think about future relationships nonstop. So if I was Mike McCarthy, I would have said something along the line, and I get why coaches, players, and GMs, why they get up on the podium and they say 1,000 words when they're not saying a damn thing at all. If I was Mike McCarthy in that situation, instead of saying Alex Smith is the better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, he's a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, I would have said something along the lines of, Alex Smith, we feel like he fits best in our system and what we're trying to do. Something like that, to where it's like you're not bashing Aaron Rodgers, but you're basically acknowledging we believe in Alex Smith. There's no harm, no foul on that. But outside of that, you're talking about also having a problem with Aaron Rodgers constantly changing plays at the line of scrimmage. When you talk about Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, talent-wise, think about Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, all the times he adjusted the plays at the line of scrimmage, or Brett Favre even. This kind of reminds me of 2009, Brett Favre and Brad Childress, right? So there was tension between Brett Favre and Brad Childress as far as who should have the most influence over the offense. And if I'm Brad Childress, I'm like, Brett Favre, do what you want. You're a Hall of Famer. Like, you have a Super Bowl ring. You obviously know what the hell you're doing. And the only reason, and I know people love to bring up, well, Brad Childress' record overall with the Vikings wasn't all that bad. It was actually pretty good. It was mostly due to the 2009 season, which was largely 95% of the reason for that success was because of Brett Favre. Brad Childress was just there. What's wrong? What's up with these people having egos? Like, who cares? Like, and it mentioned also too in the article as far as Mike McCarthy wanted to take all the credit. He wanted to get most of the credit. I can just pick, plug and play players, and they'll just pick up where the other players left off because my scheme is bulletproof. Damn it, that makes no sense. So I don't understand why you have a problem with Aaron Rodgers, especially if you're calling the most Barney type plays that over a period of time other teams on the league, they're going to pick up on and exploit that. I don't understand why you have a problem if you're lazy as a head coach, certainly calling plays on the offense, why you'd have a problem with your star quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, adjusting plays at the line of scrimmage. We'll call this play. I'm going to assign you to instruct the rest of the team. We're going to run with this play, but if you see something at the line of scrimmage that you feel that another play would take this offense over the top or at least give this team a better chance of moving the chains, then by all means, go ahead and do that. And then also missing meetings due to getting massages in your office. That's just absolutely ridiculous. So certainly there's some blame there with Mike McCarthy. Oh, I switched it right there. No big deal. But then also Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers deserves some blame too, because I've always, and when it comes to players or even anybody that I talk about or I critique on this good or bad, I don't want to think about who that person may be outside of off the field or off the court, their personal lives, because I don't know these players, and I don't want to know these players on a personal level. I don't want to know any of them, damn it. I just don't want to know, and I don't care. I keep everything in line with how they perform on the field. Now, with that said, this information as far as, and this isn't just Tyler Dunn just coming up with these situations out of a hat. In the case of Greg Jennings, he repeated something, and I forgot all about this. I'm pretty sure he mentioned this on FS1 on the Herd with Colin Cowherd, his show a couple of years ago, and I completely forgot until it got reiterated again in this article to where, for instance, Greg Jennings, let me see if I can bring this quote up. Greg Jennings. So we're talking about a game where, it was 2012, and the Packers were hosting the 49ers when mid-timeout, cornerback Carlos Rogers of the 49ers playfully asked Jennings why he was running so many short routes. And then Jennings responded, quote, "You know how it is, contract year." That's when Rogers stepped in to say, per Jennings, "You guys should get him at the end of the year." Like, why would you do that? Why would you say that about your number one receiver or one of your number one receivers over the last couple of years? Like, why would you do that? And basically just the mind bleep you do to your player, like, that's your teammate. Like, why would you do that? Throw him under the bus to another team to where it's just like, if other players see that, they're going to pick up to where other players on that roster, on that Packers team, they're going to pick up and say, okay, we don't want to make Aaron Rodgers mad. Yeah, let's just gang up on Greg Jennings. Now, that may have not been the case, but he also mentioned in 2013 when he was on the Vikings where he could tell that other receiver, when they played the Packers, he could tell that receivers on the Packers team were scared to come to him and say hello because they didn't want to upset Aaron Rodgers. Like, what kind of crap is that, man? And then another player example, Jeff Janis. So Jeff Janis was a rookie, and it's interesting because, and this is according to a former scout of the Packers, quote, "Janis got into the doghouse really quick. And he just never let, as far as with Aaron Rodgers, Janis got into the doghouse really quick, and Aaron just never let him out. He didn't even give the kid a chance. And the tough part is, Janis is actually a good person, and they used to dog him. Other people did what Aaron did. They used to dog Janis. So you're in this situation, this environment, this culture that you're building is, I'm the big bad Aaron Rodgers. My stuff don't stink. Everybody do as I say. And you know what? Before I get into that, this is why I have a problem with advanced analytics and advanced metrics. It's nothing wrong with it. But as far as if you're using it as the end-all, be-all, when it comes to pro sports, 1 + 1 isn't always 2. Meaning that Aaron Rodgers, any advanced metrics you want to come up with, I'm sure he checks off every box at the quarterback position. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But when it comes to, okay, with this scheme and Aaron Rodgers, his ability, and this player, they graded 13th in PFF in their entire position class. And if you plug all this together, this will thrive and they'll average like 33 points a game. They'll be one of the best in the league. That's all well and good in theory. But if you can't get along, not even get along to where you're hanging out with players outside of work, but if you can't coexist with your teammates, because the NFL is the ultimate team sport, if you can't coexist with these players, then the product will ultimately fail. A guy like Jeff Jennings, early on, rookie or whatever it is, a super young player, super impressionable, there's a lot of pressure. The NFL, pro sports is already, not even just pro sports, just jobs in general. You go to a job, there's a lot of pressure on you. You're trying to provide for your family, and in order to do that, you need to learn as much as you can, and you need to perform at your job at the best that you can do, certainly up to your company standards. So that's already a lot of pressure right there. But when you add on this extra element of the leader of your organization just treating you like crap and treating you like you don't matter, suddenly you can't just focus on your job. You can't, it's already stressful enough to try to do well and impress people as far as the job that you do. Now you can't just focus on your job. Now there's this extra element where you got to walk around on eggshells, and because of this mob mentality where everybody else is ganging up on you, and I take this kind of personally because I've witnessed this before, and I've been the subject of this, to where you can't focus on your job. You're stressed out, and now you're trying to make sure you don't tick anybody off, and you're not able. It take your performance, your job, your performance that you're doing suffers. It takes a hit because you're not able to. Here's the formula for success to all managers and employers. We're trying to figure out why we're losing all these employees. Turnover rate. We're trying to better or basically shrink the turnover rate with our staff. We're trying to keep quality employees. You want to know the formula to do that, to keep your best employees and to keep them happy? Don't be you know what? I can't even say that word. I wish I could just do this podcast and really just unleash like I really want to. Like, I wish I could be as real as I want to be. So I'll rephrase it. I'll say it in a different way. Don't be a Richard. It's easy. It's that simple. Treat people like human beings. Now, if they suck at their job, then hey, they need to be reprimanded, okay? But treating them like crap, and then where basically you feel like you're all alone, you have no support, the whole organization is coming after you because, hey, if our leader is treating him like crap, we need to do it too, because guess what? And there's nothing you can do about it. You have to sit there and roll with the punches. Why? Because you being able to provide for your family is on the line. If you get out of line, and you stick up for yourself and you say what it is that you really want to say, then the repercussion is you're fired. You can't provide for your family. And that's completely unfair, because I don't understand why you're treating me like this at the workplace, when outside of the workplace, you would never think twice to treat me like this at all. But because it's a power trip for you, oh, we're just going to gang up on you and whatever. That's completely unfair and completely uncalled for. I feel so bad for Jeff Jennings, because the NFL is so hard enough. Adding that extra element isn't doing anything to help that player succeed. And you're in turn, basically, you're not giving your team the best chance to succeed if you're hindering the performance of the rest of your players. And then also not being able to trust Aaron Rodgers, not trusting rookie wide receivers. So this goes to, let me see if I can bring the quote here. So this goes to, and I want to make sure I'm saying this guy's name right, Equanimus St. Brown of the Green Bay Packers. He was a rookie last year, and this is in the article, quote, a source close to the team says St. Brown became frustrated because as much as he wanted to follow McCarthy's play design, he also heard rumors of Rodgers freezing out teammates like a Jeff Jennings or like a Greg Jennings if they didn't do exactly what he demanded. So he listened to Rodgers. On one play in New England, Rodgers told St. Brown to run a post route when the play called for a flag route. St. Brown ran the post and pressure forced Rodgers to throw the ball away toward the flag. And that's ridiculous, because you're like, yo, run a post route. Even though the coaching staff and everybody, they realize this is supposed to be a flag route, run a post route. And then when you're getting pressure, you're thrown to the flag. So now, not only is St. Brown, he's going against the playbook, but now you're making him look extra bad because, oh, he forced a play in the flag where this guy should have been in, and then that goes to the point of leading his position coach to grill him on what he was thinking. St. Brown told him he was improvising so he didn't upset Rodgers. So St. Brown was in a lose-lose situation. He went against the playbook, did what he wasn't supposed to do, but because the leader organization told him to basically say, bump that, forget the playbook, do what I say. And if he was to do that, okay, fine, you're making Rodgers happy. But if it turns out bad and he's throwing to the play that the opposite position of where Rodgers told you, now the coaching staff is getting on you. It's just when guys are just like on eggshells and what is up with these politics, man? I just can't get over. If you are sick of that kind of crap, find what it is that you love to do. For everybody, find what it is that you love to do. And if you can get paid for it, go out there and do that ish. Life is too short to be sitting there and just like you're in high school again, like, oh, hello, sir. Hello, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, sir. I'll do whatever it is you ask. Oh, the coaches are telling me this, but I'll do whatever you say. And if it goes all to hell, then I'll just take the blame myself and say, oh, I just improvised. I don't know what I was thinking. But guess what? He could get cut for that too. The NFL is such a cutthroat league, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem to give a damn. And that's why I've never taken the Packers serious. I've never taken them seriously over the last couple of years because, especially with Mike Zimmer, that's the second thing you can give him credit for. Number one, being able to make cornerbacks look better than what they may actually be. And then number two, basically handling the Packers. I'm not worried about the Packers. I never have been. Now, next year, Aaron Rodgers has a lot of pressure on him. Mike McCarthy is no longer there. Ted Thompson, the ineptitude GM that he was, he's no longer there. But you know what? It seems like something internal with Aaron Rodgers. He just seems like a pompous ass to where it's like, it doesn't matter where you go. You can move from state to state. You can go from company to company. But if you just bring this negative energy no matter where you go and you're just a jackass and, you know, you can be I don't care how great of a player you are. The NFL is the ultimate team sport. And if you're not playing as a team, then it doesn't matter. All you'll do is just rack up stats. But if you're trying to win, you need to be able to think about and lead others. Not everybody can take a beat down mentally. Some guys need to be treated differently. You need to realize that. You need to support your teammates as best as you can. And from this article, and even just from the outside looking in, it just appears that Aaron Rodgers is one of the most selfish players in the NFL. He only cares about himself. It's so much so to where he blames everybody but himself. He'll never take the blame for situations that call on it. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not afraid of the Packers whatsoever. Who knows? Maybe they'll have a bounce back year. The only team that I'm worried about in the NFC North is the Chicago Bears. So as long as the Green Bay Packers, as long as they're sitting there just pointing the fingers at everybody and whatever, that bodes well for the Vikings. We ain't got to worry about y'all. Don't got to worry about y'all one bit. So not worried about them at all. If they look good, then I'll admit, okay, I was wrong. But Aaron Rodgers just seems like a jackass, and he needs to work on himself. Otherwise, if he's still carrying that same energy like he has been for the last several years, then you know what? There's no hope for him, and there's no hope for the Green Bay Packers. Everything looks great when everybody's gelling and everybody's playing well, and okay, fine. But guess what? During the tough times, you need to pick up the rest of your team. They're looking after you, or they're looking to you to lead them. And beating down on players isn't going to help anybody. It sends a message to the rest of the team that, oh, I better not get out of line because I could be next. And so much so to where I should join in on the fun and poking fun at that player so that way I can deflect the attention off of me. The radar will no longer be on me because we're going to gang up on this player. It seems like high school, man. Just a bunch of high schoolers. And Aaron Rodgers just seems like a pompous ass. So anyway, we do this twice a week. Mediokr Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. Follow me on Twitter at realistic_Randy. Facebook at Realistic Randy. Subscribe to this channel on YouTube. We'll see you on Score North on Tuesday.